Okay, our Get the Cheese challenge is the hardest of all. So go ahead and click on Get the Cheese. There is some programming already attached to one of the sprites, the cheese. So that is done for you. If you click on Inside, your job is going to be to give the mouse its programming that it needs. When you click on the cheese, please take a look at that, and it might make a little more sense to you once you finish your mouse programming and play the game a little bit. But be sure to look and see how this was done so that you understand why the cheese is doing what it's doing, and some of those new sensing blocks like the timer and the random operators there to go to a random location, so that you kind of understand how those are used. You won't have to use them though. So your job is going to be to program the mouse in this program. Some helpful blocks will be, we want to program the mouse, I should tell you that, so that he goes up when you press the up arrow, down when you press the down arrow, to the right when you press the right arrow, and to the left when you press the left arrow, so that he can try to chase the cheese and catch it. So some of the helpful blocks that you will need to use, you will need a when the green flag is clicked to reset your game. You will also need another event for when an arrow key is pressed. Those two under the events. Under motion, your mouse will need to point in certain directions and travel in those directions when those different arrows are clicked. So you will need a point in direction block. And in order for him to travel, you do not want to give him a specific location because you don't know where he might be when the user is clicking that arrow. So we're going to use the general changing of a location, which is going to be a change Y by, and you'll find that you will also need to do a change X by later on. We don't want the user to just continue pressing your right arrow key until the mouse disappears and then he's not on the game board anymore. So if on edge bounce is going to be helpful as well. All right, we will need some controls, like possibly a forever if we want to loop some things. We may need an if then. I'll pull that out just in case. We will need some data. We will need to keep score in this game because each time the mouse catches the cheese, we want him to earn a point. So we will need to create a score variable. And we'll need to set the score and change the score. And last, we will need to let the program know that the mouse may only change the score by 1 if he catches the cheese. And in order to do that, we're going to use a sensing block, which is if touching, where's that one at? Or just touching, I guess. Touching, where's touching? There, right at the top. And then we'll have an option there, and we'll say the cheese because that's when we're going to tell him to go ahead and score a point. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put these together so that remember, each click of a different button is a new event. So we're going to need to build a program for the up arrow, the down arrow, the right arrow, and the left arrow. So let's just start with one of those. Of course, when the green flag is clicked, we want to set our score to 0. We're not using the space key in this game, so we want to pick an up arrow. When the up arrow is pressed, what do we want to happen? Well, first we want the mouse to point upwards, so let's pick point in direction. And when we look at our choices here, we've got 90 to the right, minus 90 would be to the left, 0 would be up, and 180 would be down. So for the up arrow key, we want him to point up. Let's see if that works. I'll press the up arrow key. Yep, there he went. Okay, so we've got that. Now we need him to travel in that direction as well. So that's where our change y or x's are going to come. And if we think of our x and y axes here, we are going to keep, if he's just traveling up, we're going to change our y by a positive number. So let's see if that works for us. And there he goes up the screen. Great. Now, like I said, when we get to the top, we don't want him running off, so we want to make sure we say that if he's on the edge, he bounces. Let's see if that works for us. Oopsie. That. I'll start him. Oh, stop that. We'll start him back down here so we can test that out. There, he bounced down. Good. Let's see. Do we want that? Anything else for that one? We'll leave that go and see if there's others. Now we're going to need to go back and get those blocks because we need to program that. Like I said, each press of the key is a new event. So we need to say the same for our down arrow. Point in direction. This time down is 180. We want to change the y again. Where's change the y? We found edge, we want it to bounce. So let's give that a test. And we'll reset that. And he's going back up. So, problem there was I kept my y changing by 10 and I really want to go down, so I want to change that by a -10 now for down. And now I can go down and I can go up and he's pointing the right way. See if you can finish this program by finishing so that when the right arrow is clicked, he travels right. When the left arrow is clicked, he travels left. We are also going to need to tell him that when he touches the cheese, he scores a point. We want to also have him say something when he touches that cheese. So here's an example. Let's start with the up arrow. When he's doing the up arrow, if he touches the cheese, we want to change the score by 1. And let's have him say something. I will make it last so we can see it for 2 seconds. I'll say gotcha. Okay, we're going to need to say this to each of our events, each of our arrow keys, of course. Now, when you get into a program like this where you are repeating programs for different sprites or different events, it does become helpful to right-click and use the duplicate. And you can duplicate everything from that point down to add a new event to, or add to a new event. So I can go ahead and click on this right now and change it to my right arrow. Now I am going to have to change a few of my directions, remember, and maybe this would have to be an X instead of a Y. So there are a few details that you might have to pay attention to. But if you did have something that you knew was for sure repeated in each of those events, you could take care of it that way. Let's have him change to the right. And X would be increasing in a positive way to the right, so I think we'd have that one okay. So we're going to reset our score and see now. The cheese programming is coming in here. You can see what it's doing. So if I use my mouse, now I haven't programmed my left one yet, but if I can, there, I got him. I got a point, and he said gotcha. So I know that my program is running correctly, and I can go ahead and do that to each of my events. If you have that figured out, like I said, I want you to check out the cheese programming and then see, after looking at that, if you could figure out how to make this game stop. All play stops after 30 seconds. You'll notice when you click on your cheese programming, there's a timer variable included. See what you can do. First of all, play with this a little bit. See what happens if you take the hide out. See what happens if you change the number on the timer, just so that you can fully understand how these scripts are working, and then see if you could change it so that the game stops all play when 30 seconds are up. Go ahead and give this one a try.